Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I am your host, William Chow. And in today's episode, this is going to be the beginning of a multi-part episode. And finally going to have to tackle that big question. Is fan subbing and how the way that we consume anime, is that affecting the anime market in a positive or negative way? And how is it and how does what we do with fan subbing affecting sales or the impact of Japanese animation as we know it? It's a really big topic. It's a really pretty controversial topic as of recently, and as the forefather of how fan subbing evolved. I think it's right that I should start at least addressing that issue. My answer probably won't be as cut and dry as a lot of the ones that you've probably heard of, and probably won't be exactly as you think that my answer. Because I'm going to give you something slightly different, a little bit different perspective on a few things. So, hang on there. So, I'm going to tackle in this episode how fan subbing started in the beginning, and on how the fan subbing has affected the industry in the beginning, and then we'll kind of work and kind of evolve from that, because that's sort of what this video cast is about, is how we changed and how the history of fan subbing occurs, and then of course the changes as they progress over time. So I'm going to just kind of go over that. All right. So in the beginning, again, we had this sort of state where all these, this Japanese animation that was available was all straight in Japanese, and very few titles were sought out to be translated in any way or dubbed in any way and brought to the North American market. So the choices are very, very limited. Fledgling fan clubs like the CFO and even the Vancouver Japanese Animation Club, when we first started it, didn't have a lot of English titles available for the small fan groups of Japanese animation fans at the time. So it was left to basically the fans to come up with some sort of way to convey the translations to the other to other members or other anime fans. Of course, synopsis sheets and translation sheets were the most common, but soon this convenience and soon the technology was available to start applying the translation straight onto the screen of the video. That's basically how fan subbing kind of started, using computers to start trying to overlay some titles onto these videos to help these new Japanese animation fans understand this thing called anime. Okay, but in the beginning, anime had to be still obtained on a particular type of medium. Whether that be a video cassette, a VHS video cassette, or a laser disc. Somebody had to have gotten that video from one of those particular sources. So, it was still, money and time had to be spent to obtain the actual anime. Okay, which basically, is the kind of the principle or the forethought of all the beginning anime fans, because the concept of getting anime means that you would have to spend money to purchase said video cassette or said laser disc, or even even in the early days DVDs. If you were going to get the anime, you would have to at least pay for some kind of media, and that, of course, a lot of the animation companies and that kind of stuff had planned for and allocated in their sales projections of when they're making the anime. I'll get into that a little bit later on how the animation companies have decided whether or not to go ahead with releasing a particular title and how they plan to make their money back, type of thing. And but the most important thing that needs to be pointed out here is that the anime fan, even at the early stages, were contributing to their sales, and we were buying their products because that was the only way you could get that kind of thing, or you can obtain that thing. Again, a lot of people refer to this as the shall we say, the collector type of anime fan that we had in the early stages of anime. Okay, again, with the use of these computers, it was still fairly primitive. Quality. We're always worried about generational loss, especially if you're going to make copies of one copy to a next copy. The video had to be transferred analog method, not digitally. So there was always a loss in both audio quality and video quality. So the further down you made the copies of the particular anime, it was going to be worse and worse in quality. But again, because so few titles were available and distribution was so limited, anime fans were very used to the fact that less than perfect copies were available, and they were quite happy to get multiple generation versions of a particular show just because it was just that rare. That you could find someone that even had anything that you liked, or that particular title that you were looking for. You were just happy that that somebody out there had it, and you'd take any copy that was available to you. Of course, now in the modern day, everything's done digitally. They don't suffer from things like generational loss, and of course, transfer speed is a lot faster. Again, we'll get into that in my next episode when we get into the evolution of of Japanese animation. But right now, I'm just trying to give you a picture of the environment that we had to start with. Okay, when we were beginning with this thing called Japanese animation. Okay, so basically, to summarize, as an anime fan, you were still very much a consumer. You were a collector, shall we say. You were interested in a lot of the products that came out, whether it be the actual anime itself, or you were always interested in the other things that came along with the anime. So, if you were a fan of let's say, Orange Road, like I was, I was very interested in not only just obtaining the laserdiscs for the TV series, to make the subtitles and everything with, but I was also very interested in the music in Orange Road. Love that saxophone, all the opening and ending theme songs. I really liked that, so I went out and bought all the CDs for that as well. Kimi Takada does a really nice job on all the artwork, so again, I bought a lot of posters. And anything that had that kind of Orange Road things, including the books and that kind of stuff, I bought all those ones. Again, you can tell that an anime fan in this sort of era would be very interested in obtaining a lot of the things that was related to the anime, just because it was just that rare. Not very many people had it, but if you wanted to enjoy the anime and and you really liked the things associated with the anime, then you would go ahead and you would buy those things, because again, not very many people would have it, so you couldn't share it with your friends, or if someone else bought, let's say, the video game or something, then you can go over to their house and play it or something. No, it's a lot of times you were the one, and you were the only one probably for miles and miles around that had that kind of thing. And if you were lucky enough to get it, then you would be the one that had it, and then of course then you could then share it with other people in your local groups, or it would become something that you would show off at one of your local club meetings or something, and then you can show other people for example, the art books or posters and that kind of stuff that you had, right? Again, we were very much collectors at this time. The second part I wanted to go over a little bit was our relationship that we kind of had with the commercial companies. You know, they're bringing forth some kind of understanding, shall we say? You know, in baseball, they refer to it as the the unwritten rules about the game. You know, they're not written down somewhere. No lawyer is going to say, this is the law, the letter of the law. These are things that, as anime fans, we have an understanding that we like to follow, and to a lot of people, and even to the modern fansubbers today, they refer to this as the code, the ethical code, if you will, which some follow and some don't. Again, because it's not written down anywhere, and there's not some company chasing you down because you stepped over the line or anything. This is what we refer to as the unwritten code, or some kind of unspoken understanding, as we like to refer to it. And probably the number one thing that's on the top of the list is that these fan subs that we make are strictly not for sale, and they're not for profit. Okay, we're just making these things just for fun, just as between fans, to help promote this fledgling genre called anime. And in order to help do that, we got to break down the translational barrier. So to do that, we're going to make up these these fan subs, these kind of add these translational things, sort of amateur, if you will, amateur video kind of thing, to help promote and help spread the word of anime concept. And and this, I'm sure the companies were trying to appreciate that's what we were trying to do, but we still wanted to do to put up lots of different titles and that kind of stuff. And we were careful not to, shall we say, step on the on the commercial licensors' toes, shall we say, because we wanted a good working relationship with them, because again, we were working with say laser discs of of the products, and again, to the Japanese market, they weren't expecting to sell, let's say, Japanese laser discs of, let's say, Orange Road to some people outside of Japan. I mean, again, their concept is, we were planning to make, let's say, 10,000 laser discs of Orange Road. We weren't expecting 100 of these laser discs to be sold to weirdos in North America who, like Japanese, like, why would, these strange people in North America who really don't really speak Japanese, why would they want our Japanese animation that is in Japanese? Strange concept, but certainly that was how Japanese animation was at the time. So here we are at least helping these commercial companies by buying their laser discs, and helping them make their target goals, or target to help them make their money back on the investment of making these TV series. Okay, and for that reason, that's why the companies weren't really, shall we say, chasing after us, because we were actually, paying for our merchandise. We were buying the product. We were buying all the CDs. We were buying the posters. So we were, helping the industry in that respect. So to have some fan subs and that kind of stuff out, using these laser discs and that kind of stuff that we did purchase, it does, in many sort of, shall we say, circles, shall we say, thought as fair use, right? And some people can argue against that, and some people, but I'm not going to get into the legalese of whether or not that is, considered fair use, and then whether or not the distribution is then, of course, a whole other issue. So, but I just wanted to cover the fact that there was this sort of understanding that we weren't doing this for profit. We weren't doing this for to sell them or anything like that. We're just using it to help to promote the this fledgling genre called anime, and there was also the understanding that when a commercial company licensed something like Bubblegum Crisis or Lotus Waters or like Orange Road for even, we would stop distributing the anime and let the company then continue on making deals, and that was good for us too because here we are. We no longer have to worry about first and second generation and SVHS copies of off of the Laserdisc of the Fansubs for things like Orange Road. Now we can get Laserdisc, quality copies of Orange Road with the subtitles on it. So I mean, it was about as good and digitally as perfect as we could get it. When these companies release it that way. And as an anime fan, that's perfect, right? We don't have to worry about loss of color, crappy audio, with dropouts and that kind of stuff, or tracking. As a lot of people with VHS tapes and that kind of stuff are always worried about, the crinkles in the tape and it causes the picture to go wacko and that kind of stuff. Finally, we have clean digital copies of our anime that we like, and that's what we want the commercial companies to do, in the long run. So then, yes, we're able to buy the laserdiscs for like Orange Road slash DVD, later on as they were produced. But again, in a company's point of view, this was good for them because, as I said, the fans were putting back into the industry, money that to help them. Basically make it worthwhile for them to produce these titles. Again, it's that collector's mentality. It's that it's that putting forth back towards the community. Okay, so yes, you are making these fan subs and you're helping the anime community get interested in anime, but at the same time, you're also helping the companies who put out the anime to tell them, hey, I'm a fan of your anime. I appreciate what you have done. Let me do my part by at least purchasing your Laserdisc so that the people like the musicians who perform the music for example, the musicians who perform the music on like Orange Road. Of course, Kimi Takada finally gets herself paid for doing the artwork, and obviously the manga artist gets his bit for for the story and everything else like that. All the story writers, obviously the animation company gets their bit, and of course then later on when Anime comes in and does their fan subs or does their commercial version, the fan subs are now can be replaced, and therefore they make the sales on the DVDs and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure once they release it on Blu-ray and whatnot, they will get they would probably hope that those same anime fans will buy the Blu-ray to show their support that they like Orange Road that much that they would buy the Blu-ray when that comes out. And again, that's how you as a fan would participate and at least give back to the industry, put back into the community, the same community that you're making the fan subs for. That's what you are supporting in the same respect, and that's what it was in the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to contrast that with how things have changed. Okay, so that's sort of what my summary that I want to go over with. Okay. The last point I wanted to cover in this historical sort of in the beginning sort of thing is how the companies view fan subs, and the reason why I want to just kind of sort of just touch on that a little bit is because unlike a lot of major companies and movie companies and that kind of stuff, anime is probably one of those ones that really has a personal niche to it. Reason is because a lot of the people that run the major companies, I'm going to say like things like Anime Division, that kind of stuff, even Genom and the people at Pioneer, Tokyo Pop, of course, Media Blasters. A lot of these people that run these companies all started as anime fans, just like ordinary people, just like you and me. Maybe sure they're a little bit older and probably closer to my age or whatever. Got started in the very beginnings of anime, shall we say? So they've been through it all. Okay, and they know how it was nothing at the beginning, and they're really starting from like grassroots, and how it grew into something, so popular that we had it on TV. You could watch it like right after school when you got back home. It'd be right in that afternoon slot, and you could watch it there. There's Saturday morning anime, and you could just watch all that. Great titles and stuff like that. We were selling things. You'd see things that are anime inside Toys R Us, and you could go to like video stores, and you could see anime on the shelves. I mean, we had it good. We had it so good. I don't know how better could you have gotten it? That we had so much anime proliferation in our popular culture. But then something happened. Okay, and again, I'm not going to go on that yet because that's going to be the next episode. But then something happened, and now we don't have that anymore. Why? I'll get into that in another episode. But the company's view is that they view that fan subs are useful. They have their part in our industry. Fan subs were probably one of especially in the beginning, was one of the quickest and sort of one of the, shall we say, almost freest, shall we say, lowest cost way to do test marketing on a particular type of topic. I go back to some of my episodes that I said earlier, where I defined the 3Gs. Again, when we first started anime, all the companies that were doing anime were only interested in the 3Gs: girls, guns, and gore. Okay? If it didn't have any of those three things, then they realized, okay, it's not worth it. No one's going to be interested. No one's going to buy the stuff. Of course, we know that's false. And that's what things like fansubbing help prove. We found that things like Orange Road, Maison Ikaku, magical girl shows, Miracle Girls, Himi-chan's Ribbon, Azukun Cha-Cha, even teenage romance stories, His and Her Circumstances, Boys Over Flowers, that kind of thing, right? Fushuga Yugi, things like this. They seem to be popular. Okay, there's a segment of the market which is interested in this, and interested enough that maybe you might want to try a commercial release of this thing. And so some companies saw this, and they jumped onto the bandwagon when the time was right, and they did do some of these shows. And again, I think the fan subs really helped push that decision through. And again, a lot of these people that are in these companies are fans, just like you and me. They also saw this, and they thought, okay, I'm sure they crunched the numbers and thought, if we sold this many DVDs, we could probably do a series, and we could probably make our money back, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so they did the calculations, and some things did work out for them, and some things did. Okay, the thing about fan subs in many ways is that there's this this concept of maybe, like, shall we say, an expiry date, a shelf life, if you will. Okay, there's a certain time period where things have to be put out before they seem to get stale. Okay. In the early days, the shelf life was really, really long because the fact that so few things out there. People that were interested in, let's say, something interested in Orange Road, for example, they would be still interested for a long period of time because the series was fairly long, and because the episodes came out so infrequently, and trying to get a hold of all the episodes, the people didn't mind waiting a long time to get those episodes. Whereas nowadays, communications are much quicker, transfer speeds are much faster. The ability to get things and send things internationally, everything's collapsed, shall we say, and the shelf life has just diminished, so that everything needs to be much quicker, almost instantaneously. We're looking for things that are like almost simulcast, as it were. I mean, we would like to see things if it's shown in Japan, we'd like to see the same things shown here, without delay. Maybe same day, same week type of thing. We don't want any lag time. And so for that, that kind of thing to happen, requires a lot of logistics, a lot of licensing, a lot of things that on the company side, which made it a lot more difficult. Again, I'll get into that when I get into to how anime has evolved and the more present. But today, again, I just want to go over the company's view of fan subbing is a positive one. I mean, they do view that it has a place. Again, they don't want it to encroach on their licenses, because obviously when they've actually licensed the show, for example, like Orange Road, then a lot of the fan subbers would be more than happy to stop distributing that title, because they know that they're working on a better copy, and a really good product to put onto the shelf and sell. And again, that's what, as a fan of Orange Road, we would like that, and we would definitely would want to support that. Okay. But again, there's in the old days, it was very easy to do that, because again, there's this generational copy. Again, at the time, we were unable to produce digital copies at the consumer level at that time. We were still doing laserdisc to VHS, which is an analog recording media. So we would be we were anxious, and we were very happy that they actually licensed it, because then that means that we were able to get really good copies of fan sub, or really good copies of the anime that we were fan subbing. So all of a sudden now we're going to have laser discs with fan sub of Orange Road, or DVDs with Bubblegum Crisis and stuff like that. Now, again, being as popular as they are, we're always hoping that maybe they'll re-release a lot of titles. For example, Bubblegum Crisis is now being released on Blu-ray. So now all those people that that enjoyed Bubblegum Crisis back then, we can now buy the Blu-rays for them, and we can enjoy them in much higher much better quality that we had that we were expecting. And again, a new generation can also enjoy it as well. So these are things that the company is hoping that the fans will do. And again, being the collector, okay, being that sort of the anime fan that's willing to go out and support the community, okay, the community that they were built using the fan subs, but also the companies that are working on these animes as well. They're part of the community as well. And I think that sort of understanding sort of transpired in the past, and somehow it has eroded in present day. So I just wanted to go over those points. That's how the now I've gone over how the fan subbers point of view and the commercial point of view. Well, what about the fans' point of view? Okay, that's the last one I'm going to cover in this topic, and I'm going to start with how the fans view it in the beginning. Okay, what the fans are getting is they get the benefit of everything. Okay, they get all all this anime, be it from the commercial companies or be it from Fansubs. But what they're getting is the best of both worlds. Okay. One thing that fans can get in this sort of happy sort of medium is that they're able to get types of animes and topics of animes that aren't always commercially viable. And what I mean by that is there's obviously a lot of anime out there, and there's even some really old animes and that kind of stuff which companies have kind of overlooked, okay, because they thought, okay, we're not going to make any money on this because it's either too old, it's a topic that maybe too not mainstream enough that that it's not going to be worthwhile to pick it up, or even things that the licensing fee is so expensive that there's no way that they would sell enough products to cover the cost of the licensing, so they don't bother releasing that particular type of title, or some kind of licensing agreement issue that they can't get the licensing for. The one title that really comes right to mind is Venus Wars, but as a as a fan, you can enjoy these titles because the fact that there's always some sort of fan group or some facility to get this, and you can still watch this anime with either fan subs or even a translation assist. So again, as an anime fan, it's really nice that you can get that. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to talk about as the fan is that anime fans at this time are. I mean, I'm not going to stereotype, but I mean, protypically, the anime fan at this time were referred to as collectors. Again, I've already kind of talked about it, and the reason why is because in order to get any anime, you had to spend money to buy stuff for it. You had to buy video cassettes to get the anime. If you're like a fansubber, you would have to go out and buy laser discs to get your source stuff to make the fan subs with. Of course, you had to, a lot of people, even though that, theoretically downloading and Napster was available, but because, anime is so esoterical, a lot of people didn't have that. So a lot of people would buy CDs of anime. Again, even if you went to a place like Staples or Office Depot and you're trying to print off a poster or something, the resolution wasn't high enough. So, and again, computers were still fighting with things over 300 DPI. So, again, you would end up having to buy posters and that kind of stuff because that was the best way to get them, and it was relatively inexpensive at the time to get that kind of stuff. So a lot of people bought posters and that kind of things. And then all the accessories type of games and things like pogs and cards and things like that, people bought a lot of that kind of material because that was the only way to get them, and because you had them, that showed that you were as I said, this fan of anime, and it kind of set you apart from like your standard sci-fi fan or your Trekkie or your Star Wars guy. Okay, you were a little different. You were an anime person. Okay, and fans at that time were not, were quite happy to spend a couple bucks to get that kind of stuff. They were willing to go that distance to find that store that had that kind of stuff and buy it and shop for it. Okay, so that's that kind of fan was willing to do that at that time. Okay, the anime fan at this time would be probably more tech savvy. Okay, I'm not saying that a lot of you people out there can't use a computer or can't use your mobile phone or your tablet. I'm saying that a lot of these people belong to organized. In order to use this new thing called the internet, okay, you had to be part of usually these tech-ish companies to have access to this internet to get your information to find out about anime and different releases and that kind of stuff. So you were part of, let's say, companies like NASA, Microsoft, Apple. You were part of these fledgling companies that were developing software for this thing called the internet. So I'm referring to things like, Netscape, okay? Again, like things like Microsoft, of course, because they're doing all that stuff. Cisco, IBM, HP. You're either maybe part of a university, okay? Part of the computer sciences or engineering wings of all the very popular universities, UBC, Berkeley, Rutgers. All these type of these universities were all kind of hubs for the anime. Okay, a lot of people from these places were out of that. So again, very very tech and computer savvy, and even with the fan subbing that we had to do again, because not entirely the fact that in the early days, as I pointed out in the an earlier episode where I talked about the equipment that we had to use for fan subbing, the computers, although had a very limited role in actually doing the fan subbing, it's all the other equipment that was needed to be hooked up simultaneously with the computer in order to get the fan subs to work. Okay, obviously in modern fan subbing, everything's loaded into the computer and then worked on within the computer, as opposed to back here, in our time, only the computer only handled the queuing of the text. Everything else had to be done with peripherals or devices external to the computer, okay, or added onto the computer via interface card or through patch cables outside the computer. Again, that required a lot of patching and hooking up and configuring and all that kind of stuff to actually get working. So again, a lot of the anime fans were kind of as a tech savvy at that time. But again, because of all the work that we've done in the past, we've now made anime way more easier to access nowadays with all the technological changes. Anime is now also. I know I haven't really exactly answered some of the questions that you've been thinking of in regards to has anime fan subbing wrecked the anime market. By starting off with this beginning, you can. I wanted to put out the notion that fan subbing in the beginning was helping spread the word of anime. Okay, so where you would say that there are only just pockets of people that are interested in anime in various different cities here and there. Trying to get these people together, trying to get these people, more people interested in this anime. Trying to get our fan clubs larger than maybe 100 people, for example. That was what we were trying to do in the early stages, and fan subbing was helping because it was breaking down that translational barrier that we had with the Japanese animation, and then at the same time, these commercial companies were realizing, hey, this anime seems to be popular. There's this potential that we could probably make some money on this anime stuff. And again, these small fledgling companies started popping up. Again, they're run mostly by anime fans who realized, hey, maybe we could actually get a couple of these titles from Japan and actually, get them English subtitled, English dubbed, and actually get them for sale, and we can actually sell them in video stores and record stores and that kind of stuff, and popular retail outlets, and try to get them and sell them and make them, shall I say, more popular. Okay, so I just wanted to paint that as a positive picture, saying that fan subs, at least in the past, have helped promote anime and boost up the industry. Okay, I'm going to get into episode 2, where anime has evolved and how a lot of people have considered it to be the heyday, the peak, the bubble of anime. Okay, could do that in the next episode. So again, I want you to click subscribe and click like. Okay, and then when I get that episode put out, then you'll be able to get notified with that right away, and then you can watch the continuation of this discussion of, does fan subbing affect the anime industry, positive or negatively, and how has it affected? As an anime fan, my message to you is try to support your anime. If you are truly the fan that you are, you want to support and put your bit in for the animes that you enjoy, because that's what anime fans should do. If you like your anime, you should at least put your bit, your contribution towards that entertainment that you enjoy. Okay. All right. So Until next time, see you again.